Välkomna till Harpsund. Most welcome to this press conference. And President Zelenskyy, let me first of all express my heartfelt condolences to you for the horrible Russian attack against Chernihiv and the loss of life. It's an act of brutality which we condemn from Sweden. It only reinforces the need for us to stand with you in all your struggles. Dear Volodymyr, I'm so happy to finally have you here in Sweden and actually in my home county, Sörmland. Not only do our flags have the same colors, obviously, which every Swede nowadays know, but the relationship between our two countries go back hundreds of years. Since Ukraine's independence, our bonds have grown even stronger year by year in your efforts to build a successful, independent and democratic Ukraine. Sweden has tried to support you in all different ways since 1991. But after Russia's brutal full-scale invasion last year, our cooperation has become broader and deeper. Today, many of Sweden's most advanced weapons systems have been deployed to help your country and your brave soldiers to defend your people. Let me express my deepest respect for you and for the Ukrainian people and for your tireless defense against Russian aggression. I know this is a sentiment I fully share with the Swedish people. We know it comes with enormous sacrifice on your side. When I was your guest, Volodymyr, in Kiev, I had the opportunity to meet with officials, with students, with soldiers, and many ordinary Ukrainians. There is only one word that possibly could summarize all the people I met with, and that word is determination. Determination to win and to prevail. I'm convinced that ultimately it is this determination that will bring Russia's aggression to an end and create a new beginning for a free Ukraine. But I would like to stress that you are not alone in this fight. Our discussions today have, of course, focused on how Sweden, Europe, and countries all around the globe that stand with you can support you in the best possible way. As you know, since February last year, Sweden has provided Ukraine with 2.2 billion euros in bilateral support, and we will continue to provide political, military, humanitarian and financial support in close dialogue with you and our common partners to make sure that Ukraine's needs are met for as long as it takes. Earlier this week, my government announced its 13th military support package to Ukraine, this time focusing on maintenance of the capabilities we have already provided, CV-90s, Leopard tanks and Archer systems, and of course, spare parts and ammunition. It also includes mine clearance components. We have already initiated work on further long-term military support to Ukraine. In this regard, I warmly welcome today's statement of intent, signed here just a few minutes ago at Harpsund, a concrete sign of the joint desire of Sweden and Ukraine to strengthen cooperation on production, training and servicing of the CV-90 platform. And let me be clear, in the field of foreign and security policy, no task is more important for my government than supporting Ukraine in its fight for freedom and territorial integrity. Ukraine is fighting for us, for all European democracies. Finally, last month, the Swedish government adopted a new 5-year strategy that provides some 520 million euro to support reform and reconstruction in Ukraine. This is actually Sweden's most comprehensive bilateral strategy ever. Never before have we had such a strong focus on supporting one single country. The overarching goal of the strategy is to support Ukraine's integration into the EU. It's my firm belief that Ukraine belongs with us in the European family. So, Mr. President, it's my pleasure to give you a copy of this strategy in Ukrainian. Over to you, Volodymyr. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dear Prime Minister, dear journalists, dear presentees, it is an honor for me today, a great honor to be today in Sweden to personally thank you, thank the Swedish people, your country, your leadership, you, Ulf, Mr. Prime Minister, and your team for your vital support of Ukraine and our people. But before I speak about our today's meeting, I'd like to say a couple of words about our city of Chernihiv, a bright Ukrainian city. This morning, Russia has stricken a missile attack against Chernihiv, the central square of the city, where the usual residential buildings are located, where we have the city theater there. There were lots of people outside and inside the theater. More than 90 people are wounded and injured, among them 12 children. They were just having a stroll. They were walking on the square together with their parents. Now we know about 7 people deceased. Among them there is a 6-year-old child. Her mother is in a very severe state in their reanimation. So I'd like to express my condolences to those who lost relatives because of this obvious terroristic Russian strike. It's very important that in the beginning of this meeting, Mr. Prime Minister expressed his condolences and said the warm words of support. I'm grateful for that. That is important for the people and for the whole country. That unites us. And really, we value lives. Thank you again. We are dealing with such vile Russian terroristic strikes. We unfortunately deal with that in the daily mode, every day until this aggression goes on. The only way to stop it is to drive away the Russian occupiers from our land physically, to prevail over them at the battlefield. And Kremlin, unfortunately, let me emphasize, doesn't understand anything else. So that is why it's very important for me to express the gratitude of our soldiers for such support during all these times of this such important for us battle, this fight for the security for each Ukrainian city, village and settlement. As you just said, thank you so much, that we are fighting not only for our families, but for the families of all of the people who have those common values, usual life values, human values. Earlier this week, I visited our combat brigades, among others, the 57th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade, named after Kish Ataman Kost-Gordienko. Kost-Gordienko is, by the way, one of those historical figures whose life has become a combination of our history of Ukraine and Sweden. And it is very symbolic that in the brigade named after Gordienko, we use your armament, the Swedish CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles. And really, those are very strong machines. Our soldiers really praise CV-90s and are grateful not only for the fact that they are moving forward with the help of these vehicles, but also for the fact that CV-90s help save the lives. The high quality of these vehicles help save and protect lives of the soldiers, and lives are the most valuable. For this life and for the freedom we are fighting. And today we have detailed our agreement to jointly produce CV-90 in Ukraine. localization of manufacturing, maintenance, and so on. That is so important for us. That is the example that security cooperation and production cooperation will fully reflect the unity of our values. And we will do everything possible to ensure that the first CV90 produced in Ukraine is delivered as soon as possible. I would also like to thank Mr. Prime Minister that our deals are complied with and the Ukrainian soldiers are already training at the artillery systems of Archer. We also talked about another strong Swedish machine, the Gripen aircraft. That is the pride of Sweden, and I'm sure that Gripen can make our freedom much more protected and secure. The test flights of the Gripen aircrafts with the participation of the Ukrainians, our pilots, have already taken place, have started, and we have discussed in details the future steps as for the opportunity to deliver Swedish Gripen aircrafts. I will meet today with the parliament speaker, with the representatives of all the parliamentary and political forces, and I will raise this question as one of the key questions to protect our sky. And now we are preparing the delivery of the 13th new package of Swedish military aid, which Mr. Prime Minister has just mentioned. And I would like to thank you, Ulf, Mr. Prime Minister, for your leadership, the leadership of your government, for the support. This package, what's important, includes ammunition for air defense and combat vehicles, spare parts for armored vehicles, and demining equipment. All of that, that will make Ukraine stronger at the battlefield. Demining or mine clearance is very important. It will save people's lives. And that's important that Sweden, together with our other partners, is involved in the global effort to restore the full operation of international law, which Russia is trying to destroy. Sweden has joined the implementation of the peace formula, in particular the points on restoring radiation safety, restoring justice, restoring environmental safety, an important issue, let me emphasize again, humanitarian demining. And together we are bringing the Global Peace Summit closer, a format in which the world majority will be able to show its leadership in returning and bringing back a fair and lasting peace. We discussed today the increase of the role of Sweden in the peace formula implementation, and our teams will work on that as well. We discussed European relations and the possibilities of strengthening our common European home. In particular, we believe that one of the key foundations of economic and institutional security of the whole of Europe is Ukraine's full accession to the European Union. The full membership and accession to the EU. And already this year we will be ready to start negotiations with the EU on Ukraine's accession, and it is important that Sweden supports us consistently and in principle on our way to the EU. I thank Sweden for its effective presidency of the European Union in the first half of this year, a time that has strengthened us all. Another strategic issue is security guarantees for Ukraine on its way to NATO. Sweden supported the Group of Seven declaration on security guarantees for Ukraine, and we thank you for that. Today, our teams will discuss the work on the relevant Ukrainian-Swedish bilateral document. And later we'll have such an opportunity to meet. Sweden has made a very rational choice in favor of NATO. The choice of our people is similar, and I'm confident that our countries will be an alliance together, will guarantee security, in particular in the entire Baltic, Black Sea, Azov region. And by the way, in our talks with all our allies, we have called and continue to call for full support for Sweden's accession to NATO, including in our talks with Turkey. I made the case for Sweden in NATO in my recent meeting with President Erdogan. And we will go on with this work further on, such support of Sweden in its accession to NATO. A few more fundamental points. After the Russian terrorist attack on the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station and the destruction of the dam, the problem of drinking water supply for dozens of Ukrainian cities became critical. These include Kryvyi Rih, Nikopol, Marhanets, and many other Ukrainian cities where hundreds of thousands of people are living. And almost 2 million Ukrainians don't have access to drinking water now. That is why Ukraine needs high-tech equipment, pump equipment, manufactured, by the way, at a plant in Sweden. So today we discussed how to speed up the delivery of such equipment. I'm grateful that the government is ready to help us in this work. We value and appreciate the recent adoption by the government of Sweden of a multi-year strategy for cooperation in the area of reconstruction, which was just presented by Mr. Prime Minister and gave it to me, the strategy of reconstruction and reforms in Ukraine. We have discussed this strategy today, and it's important that it foresees the involvement of private capital in the reconstruction. And these long-term support programs are the strongest signal that we will not allow Russian aggression to overcome our desire to live. Sweden will be with us in the post-war transformation. I thank for that. And we have also discussed the opportunity of patronage of your state, of your regions and companies over Ukrainian regions, areas and branches which need reconstruction after the Russian strikes. And we also value your support. We appreciate that our people feel here, the IDPs, all those whose homes in Ukraine have been destroyed by this tragedy, by this war, but who, thanks to Sweden, do not feel homeless. I would like separately to thank each and every Swedish city and family, all of your people who gave shelter to the Ukrainian families, children, elderly, anybody who needed your support and help. Thank you for such an opportunity today to communicate. I thank you for this visit and wish victory in this war. Glory to Ukraine.
And let also me stress the fact that our two teams work extremely well together. That's a very, very good precondition. Now I think we will open up for questions. God bless.
Yes, so we'll start with some questions, short in English and only one question. TT News Agency, please.
President Zelenskyy, can you tell us a little more about what you discussed with the JAS Gripen aircraft delivery? Do you believe that that could help Ukraine gain air supremacy in the war? Thank you.
Please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. In this war, Ukraine will prevail because we are bringing the truth. And answering your question, we need to understand precisely where we are stronger and where we are weaker than Russia, what we can control and what, unfortunately, so far, we cannot. We are the most motivated, we are on our own land, and we definitely know for the sake of what we are fighting. We know definitely that we will prevail today on the land. Our soldiers doing everything possible and impossible, and in many, many spheres and hard to overcome directions, we can see our moving forward. And when Russia surrenders, and where it does not surrender, it loses thousands of people. I was telling in details to the Mr. Prime Minister how many people they lose every day. Thousands of people every day. I have those reports, and there's several times a week I hear about their losses, and I see that. So as for this sphere, we have some force. As for the skies, we do not have this, we are not prevailing. We have wonderful pilots. Lots of them are heroes of Ukraine. I gave awards to them, and unfortunately I had to award their families because we lost our heroic pilots. We don't have the supremacy in the skies. We don't have modern aircrafts. And really, the Swedish Gripen aircrafts is the pride of your state. So I consider that such a pride could be shared by Mr. Prime Minister with Ukraine. And we will definitely be proud of that as well. We are working on that. It's important to have these powerful steps forward. It's important that for the next weeks, for the following weeks, we'll have certain actions. And I really believe they will deliver the opportunity to deliver the aircrafts. And tomorrow, in fact, I will have negotiations and talks, and the day after tomorrow with several more countries and states, and I'm sure that together with the partners we'll do everything possible and we will achieve the necessary outcome in the skies for Russians not to have this supremacy. When they control the skies, unfortunately, you cannot move quickly on the land, and we need that. Thank you.
Radio, please.
Карл Волкогон, Радіо Швеції, Українська.
Radio Sweden in Ukrainian. Volodymyr, how can you assess this visit to Sweden, help and support of Sweden, and is there anything we still lack? Well, in fact, I'm grateful for the 13th package which we got. I'm grateful that we are having further steps to strengthen our skies. I already mentioned about that. We are really grateful for CV90s, and this is not was just a speech. We were speaking about the detailed usage of them, and I already mentioned this example, which I mentioned to the Mr. Prime Minister today. There are some of the equipment, there is some of types of the equipment which you need to be distant from, because if it explodes because of the Russian strikes, and everybody will perish. But there is some military equipment which can save lives, and CV90 saves lives. So we really need more of them. We were speaking about additional CV90s, and of course, it cannot be endless. This or that type of support cannot be endless. That is why I'm really grateful to this important step forward. As for localization of manufacturing of CV90 on the territory of Ukraine, it's a real step forward, because when you get the equipment and vehicles, the armored vehicles at the battlefield, like CV90, powerful equipment, still, this is the war. Something can be broken, we need to repair, and repair in the different states abroad, not on the territory of Ukraine, and it is too hard, it's complicated, we are losing time, and that is why we are losing the initiative at the battlefield, and we are losing people, what's the most important. So the today's step is the powerful step forward. We just need now our teams, our military, to work powerfully and strongly, because at the level of the leaders, we've already made this important step. Now we need to implement it quickly at the technical level. Thank you.
More time for some questions. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Thank you. Please.